Hey, it's Tom Scark 11, and Xenoblade 3 has some classes that are not as good as they should be. So if you've been around it before, you know what that means. It's time to theorycraft ways to buff them. First one I'm going to be looking at buffing is Tactician, Tyon's default class, but before getting into it, I'll quickly go over the rules of this series. So unlike Xenoblade 2, where I had to completely rework a lot of skills or make things up from scratch to buff blades, Xenoblade 3 is much better balanced, and every class already has a very well-defined niche. Some of them just are lacking things that other classes already have. And I feel like some of these classes just could have been better if you combined them. So the only thing we're going to be doing is taking arts and skills from existing side quest classes and giving them over to the classes that we're buffing. So for Tactician, it is a ether attacker debuff support. There is another class which is more offensive based debuffer. So we're going to be combining those two to make one much more effective debuff support class. There will, of course, if you care about classes as spoilers, there will be a later game side quest class, just the class itself. Not going to say anything about the side quest from it, it's just going to be about the class. So we'll first look at Tactician skills. So I have Senna doing this because she's the only one that I have at rank 10 in both Tactician and Machine Assassin. Everyone else is either at completely different ranks from them. None of them are maxed in both. So just going to be using Senna for this. The first skill for Tactician is Ethereal Ability. Boosts damage up by Ether Arts by 50%. It's 50% at max. Right now it's 40% because she's only rank 10. This is easily the best skill that Tactician has. Shield Render adds at max, I think it says 100% chance for attack to be unblockable. It's nice, it's just not really useful for a ranged debuffer to have. So this is one of the skills that we're going to be replacing. Two of these skills are going to be replaced with skills from Machine Assassin. Eternal Curse, this one's good for the debuff playstyle already. This one is fine, it's not too bad of a skill, it's just kind of unnecessary, especially for a ranged attacker. So I'm going to be replacing that one also. Now for the skills from Machine Assassin. I'm not sure what this is at max because I don't have anyone maxed in Machine Assassin yet. I would assume probably 35%, maybe 40% at max. Doesn't really matter though, because either way, this is a very good skill for a debuffer to have. Debuffing an enemy boosts damage dealt by 25% up to a maximum 150%. I don't think the maximum changes, so it really doesn't matter what the level of the skill is. Maximum is what really matters here. So I'm going to give this to Tactician. And interestingly, they both have this same skill for unblockable attacks. It's a lot more sensible on Machine Assassin since it's a physical attacker, but with Tactician being a ranged attacker, it doesn't need these. Cursed Edge, this is basically a different version of this already. They're very similar skills, but I feel like this one is the better skill to give over to Tactician, being the debuffer support. And then this is the other one that we're going to give over to Tactician. It doesn't have much to do with debuffing the enemy, but it feels like someone should have this, and it makes sense to have it on a debuffer class. So that will be the other skill that goes over to Tactician. And now onto the arts. Overfall is a really good art, easily the best that Tactician has. Applies Ether Defense down. Storm Skies, nice heal art. Hazy Figure, nice field art. Venging Eagle, this is okay. I mean, there's better debuffs, but it's pretty decent. And Dark Banner, this is the one that we're going to be replacing. This is a really bad effect. Sleep is useless in this game, just utterly worthless. And then the other that we're going to be changing is, well, not changing, but adding an effect to this. Tidal Wave, just a generic heal. As you can see, being a debuffer class, Tactician doesn't really have much in the way of debuffs. So we're just going to add a debuff effect to Tidal Wave. And now on to the arts for Machine Assassin that we're going to be giving over. This is the big one, is Give the effect of Viral Vector, applies one randomly chosen debuff when art hits. Give that effect to Tidal Wave so that it's actually a debuff focused talent art. Maybe since it's an early game class, so you can't get just any really strong debuff, make it so that the pool for debuffs that applies only includes debuffs that you've encountered. I feel like that would be an easy way to balance it for it being an early game class getting an effect like this. And then the other effect, Dark Banner, should get inflicts resistance down, because as a debuffer you really want debuff resistance down to deal with how everything in the late game really resists a lot of debuffs. But the one problem is that this can be resisted for some reason, so that shouldn't be a thing. Resistance down should not be resisted itself. It doesn't make any sense. So Dark Banner with the effect of inflicts debuff resistance down, except it's just a guaranteed, not something that can be resisted itself, because then it's completely pointless. And that's really it for buffing Tactician, just giving these arts and skills from Machine Assassin, which is the more offense-focused debuffer. Together, they could be a much better class, because alone, neither of them are particularly good as debuff-focused classes, just because of the way some of these arts and skills work. They both just have things that aren't really necessary. Well, Tactician mostly has things that aren't really necessary. Machine Assassin has skills that work well for it. It's just, if you combined them, they could be a much more effective debuffer, especially if you just fixed resistance down being resisted. So I'm not sure how many episodes of this I'll actually need to make. There aren't many classes that are in need of buffs in the first place, so I probably won't have more than a few episodes of this. But every one of them is going to follow the same rules of just taking existing arts and skills from other classes and giving them to the classes that need the buffs. So if you watch the end, then comment Blossom Dance down below, and see you next time.